31st July 1945, 12 meters underwater, pitch black. James Magennis is scraping barnacles off the bottom of a Japanese warship with a small hand scraper. He's been doing this for 4 hours. His oxygen is running out. His hands are cramping. He can't see anything. He's completely alone. And if he doesn't finish the job, none of this matters. The magnetic mines won't stick. The mission fails, so he keeps scraping. Barnacles. In the dark, under a Japanese ship, in enemy waters. This is Operation Struggle. This is James Magennis, and this might be the strangest way anyone ever won the Victoria Cross. James Joseph Magennis. 27th October 1919, Belfast, Northern Ireland. Coming from a working-class family, his father works in the shipyards, his mother dealing with housework. Growing up in Belfast's narrow streets. School doesn't go particularly well, but his hands are skilled. He likes fixing small things. Motorbikes, radios, knows how to take everything apart and put it back together. Height 5'6", short by most measures, but this detail becomes very important later because short men fit perfectly in midget submarines. In 1935, at 16, he joins the Royal Navy at a time when unemployment is at its peak. No work in Belfast. The Navy offers stability. The first years are ordinary, serving on ships, but then he transfers to submarines, and that's where his talents are noticed. Calm, methodical, doesn't panic, doesn't mind working in tight spaces. In 1942, he volunteers for a special unit, X-craft submarines, midget submarines. Very few people fit inside, very dangerous missions. But Magennis wants this because he doesn't want to be ordinary. He wants to do something. Right, I need to tell you about X-craft submarines, because to understand these missions, you need to know how small, how cramped, how terrifying these submarines were. Imagine this, a 15-meter long tube, about the size of a London bus. 4 men squeeze inside. But squeeze is being generous. It's more like are compressed into. You can't stand upright, can't straighten up, can't turn around. No room to sit side by side. One lying down, another sitting, another crouching, the fourth at the controls. Hot, suffocating, limited oxygen, like a metal coffin. And in this coffin, you go into enemy waters, pass through minefields, evade patrols, approach the target ship. Then one man goes outside, puts on diving gear, enters the water, swims underneath the ship, places the mines, comes back, gets inside the submarine, you escape. Sounds straightforward, doesn't it? It's not. There's death at every step. Summer 1945, the Pacific. The war's ending, but it hasn't finished yet. Japan is resisting. The atomic bomb hasn't been dropped yet. That's coming in August. In July, the situation is this. The Japanese have gone on the defensive, losing the islands, but their ships still pose threats. In Singapore, there are remnants of the Japanese Navy. The heavy cruiser Takao is one of them. 15,000 tons, 203mm guns, armored, dangerous. She's damaged, not fully operational, but sitting in Singapore harbor, and she's a potential threat. The British Pacific Fleet didn't want that. They're going to retake Singapore soon. Having that ship there isn't acceptable. But how do you sink her? Air attack is risky. Singapore is still under Japanese control. Air defenses are present. Naval attack would cost too many casualties. Only option, covert operation. X-craft midget submarines, Operation Struggle. Target, disable Takao. Mission, James Magennis and the XE-3 crew. Operation Struggle, July 1945. The plan, 2 X-craft midget submarines, XE-1 and XE-3, will enter Singapore harbor. At night, silently, they'll pass through Japanese minefields, avoid patrols, reach the target ships. XE-3's target is Takao. The submarine will position under the ship. A diver will go outside, attach 6 limpet mines to the ship's hull, come back in. The submarine escapes. The mines are on timers. They'll explode in a few hours, by which time XE-3 will be far away. Simple, but it's never simple. Everything can go wrong. You can get lost in the minefield. A patrol can spot you. The submarine can break down. The diver can drown. The mines might not explode on time, or explode early. There's risk at every step, but there's no other option. Takao must be sunk, and James Magennis volunteers as the diver. July 30th, 1945. XE-3 sets off. Initially towed by a regular submarine because X-crafts can't do long distances, their batteries aren't sufficient. When they approach the Johor Strait, they separate. XE-3 continues on her own. Commander Lieutenant Ian Fraser, 3 other crew, one of them Magennis. Hours pass inside the cramped metal tube. Everyone quiet, everyone thinking about what might happen. Magennis checks his diving equipment. Oxygen tank, mask, gloves, scraper mines, everything ready. But there's a thought in his head. How long will he be under that ship? The plan says 2 hours, but plans don't always hold. Sometimes it takes longer. How much longer, he doesn't know. All he knows is this: he has to finish the job, however long it takes. 31st July 1945, early morning. XE-3 is in Singapore Harbor. Takao is in visual range. Enormous ship, standing above the water, silent, looking dead, but dangerous. XE-3 approaches, slowly, very slowly. Engine noise minimal. They're looking through the periscope for any Japanese patrols. None. They're lucky. They get underneath the ship, take up position. Now it's Magennis' turn. He puts on his diving suit. Heavy rubber, old technology, not comfortable. Movement restricted. Straps the oxygen tank to his back. Fixes the scraper to his belt. 6 limpet mines ready. Commander Fraser looks at him one last time. Ready? Magennis nods. Yes, sir. The hatch opens. Water floods in. Cold, dark. Magennis slides into the water. And at that moment, everything changes. Magennis swims to the underside of the ship. 12 meters depth. Dark. Completely dark. He's got a torch, but it's weak. Doesn't illuminate much. Plus, he doesn't want to use it because light can be seen from above. He reaches out, touches the ship's hull, and he feels it. Something's wrong. The hull should be smooth, should be metal, but this, it's slippery, soft, rough. What's this? Barnacles, seaweed, marine growth. Takao has been sitting in this harbor for 2 years not moving, and her underwater section is completely covered in marine life. This wasn't in the calculations. Limpet mines are magnetic, they stick to metal, but they don't stick to barnacles. To attach them, you need to clean the surface. How? By scraping, by hand, with a small scraper. Magennis stops for a second, thinks, then starts. Scraping. Think about this. 12 meters underwater, in the dark, alone, under a Japanese warship. You're scraping barnacles. With a small scraper, you clean an area, place the mine, move to the next area, scrape again. There are 6 mines. For each one, you need to clean an area. Scraping is exhausting. Your hands ache. Your arms cramp. But you can't stop, because oxygen is limited. They planned 2 hours, but with these by the end of 4 hours, Magennis can barely breathe. Almost. The gauge on his oxygen tank is reading nearly 0. Every breath is difficult. His lungs are burning. His head is starting to spin. This is a sign of oxygen deprivation, hypoxia. The brain isn't getting enough oxygen. Thinking slows, decision-making deteriorates. A normal person panics at this point. Surface, get air, save yourself, the brain says, but surfacing means death because you're next to a Japanese ship. If you surface, they'll see you. They'll shoot you. There's no choice. Either finish the job or drown here. Magennis places the last mine, the 6th one. Checks it. Is it properly attached? Yes. Right. Time to go back. Swims to XE-3, finds his way in the darkness, feeling with his hands because he can't see anything anymore. Reaches the submarine's hatch. Knocks. They open from inside. He gets in, water drains, takes off the mask, and at that moment, he breathes. The first real breath after 4 hours. Magennis is inside, safe, but it's not finished yet. Now they have to escape. XE-3 leaves from underneath Takao, silently, slowly. Engine on minimum, periscope up, checking the surroundings. A Japanese patrol passes nearby, doesn't notice them. They're lucky. They exit the harbor, pass through the minefield, following the same route they used coming in because they know that route is safe. Hours pass, daytime comes, sun rises, they're still in enemy waters, But slowly they're moving away from Singapore. They'll wait until evening, then rendezvous with the mother submarine. Until then, they need to hide. Inside XE3, there's silence. Everyone exhausted. Magennis is dozing, head resting, hands still trembling from exhaustion. But he's done it. Finished the job. 6 mines under Takao on timers. They'll explode in a few hours. 31st July 1945, evening. Singapore Harbor. Takao is still there, silent, looking dead. Then the explosion. 6 limpet mines exploding almost simultaneously. Enormous explosion noise underwater. Takao shakes. Massive holes open in her hull. Water starts flooding in. The ship lists sideways, slowly sinking, doesn't sink completely, but settles into the shallow water, disabled. The Japanese are shocked. What happened? Torpedo? Air attack? How? From where? They don't understand because they saw nothing, heard nothing. 4 hours ago, a man was underneath their ship, scraping barnacles, placing mines, nearly drowning. But he'd done it, and Takao is now unable to fight. Mission successful. Operation Struggle successful. And James Magennis won the Victoria Cross. Autumn 1945. Buckingham Palace. King George VI places the Victoria Cross around James Magennis's neck. Magennis stands upright, uniform spotless, face serious. Beside him is XE3's Commander Lieutenant Ian Fraser. He's also receiving the VC. 2 men, same mission, same achievement. The king asks Magennis, "What were you thinking underneath that ship?" Magennis answers simply, "I was thinking about finishing the job, sir." That's it. 4 hours, 12 meters depth, scraping barnacles, oxygen running out, darkness, alone. And his thought was, finish the job. The king smiles, pins the medal. Magennis becomes the first and only Northern Irishman to win the Victoria Cross in the Second World War. Belfast is proud. Ireland is proud. But this pride won't last long. 1946, Magennis returns to Belfast as a hero. Victoria Cross on his chest. He has expectations. He'll find work, build a life, receive respect. But reality is different because Magennis is Catholic. And Belfast in 1946 is at the center of Protestant-Catholic tensions. He applies for work. Magennis, Catholic name? No. Second application, he's won the Victoria Cross, but he's Catholic. No. Third application, fourth, fifth, all no, because religion comes first. Courage second. The medal doesn't matter at all. Magennis understands there's no future for him in Belfast. He talks with his family. His mother's crying. "Stay here," she says. His father's silent, doesn't know what to say. But Magennis makes his decision. He moves to England, goes to Bradford in 1947. Maybe he'll find work there. Maybe things will be better. They're not. Bradford, then Halifax, then other towns. Magennis works ordinary jobs, electrician, repairman, whatever he can find. The Victoria Cross is never mentioned. Nobody's interested. The war's over, it's in the past, people say. Magennis marries, has children, tries to build a life. But money is always tight. His pension is small. Work is irregular. Sometimes he can't pay the rent. He thinks about selling the Victoria Cross medal, but he can't do it. That medal is the memory of 4 hours. The 4 hours spent under Takao, scraping barnacles, nearly drowning, surviving. He can't sell it. But he can't pay the bills. The 1960s, 1970s, 1980s pass. Magennis ages, is forgotten. Even Belfast forgets him. Northern Ireland's only VC winner is forgotten. Because he's Catholic. Because he switched sides, went to England. Neither side claims him. 12th February 1986. Halifax, West Yorkshire. James Magennis dies, 66 years old. Heart attack. In a small house in a modest neighborhood. His funeral is simple. Few people come. A few old friends, family, that's all. No government officials. No soldiers. No ceremony. Just a simple funeral. This is how a Victoria Cross winner is buried. Lived in poverty, died in poverty, spent 4 hours under a Japanese warship, completed one of the hardest missions in history. But at his death, nobody cares. One newspaper runs a story, a small paragraph. Former sailor dies, it says. The Victoria Cross isn't even mentioned in the headline. That's it. This is how James Magennis is remembered. Or rather, not remembered. But the story doesn't end here. In 1999, something happens. In Belfast, a group of people, historians, journalists, are researching Northern Ireland's forgotten heroes. They find James Magennis, the only Northern Irish VC winner. Where is he? They ask. Buried in Halifax, a simple grave. The name isn't even spelled correctly on the stone. This is shameful, they say. They start a campaign. In 2007, a memorial to James Magennis is erected in Belfast, in front of City Hall. Bronze plaque, his name, his medal. Northern Ireland's Victoria Cross hero. It reads, finally. 21 years after his death. Finally, he's remembered. But isn't this too late? Shouldn't he have been remembered whilst he was alive? Let me open a bracket here. Operation Struggle wasn't the only X-Craft mission. These midget submarines were used on other missions. The most famous was September 1943. Norway attack on the battleship Tirpitz. Germany's biggest warship, the British feared her, didn't want her getting into the Atlantic. X-Craft submarines placed mines under Tirpitz, damaged her, disabled her. That mission also won Victoria Crosses. The X-Craft program earned 6 VCs in total. The smallest submarines, the greatest courage. But every mission had the same difficulty. Cramped space, limited oxygen, enemy waters. You're alone. You could drown. You could be captured. But you have to do it. What Magennis did was one of the hardest examples of this tradition because those barnacles were in nobody's calculations. Improvisation, endurance, determination, 4 hours. Today in Belfast, there's a street bearing James Magennis's name, Magennis Close, in Titanic Quarter, near Belfast Harbour. Tourists pass through, see the name, ask, who's this? Some tell them, some don't know. The memorial at City Hall is still there, well-maintained, respected. But most Belfast people don't know who he was. The younger generation doesn't know, because it's not taught in schools, not talked about in the media. Only history enthusiasts know. And this is sad, because Magennis wasn't just a brave soldier, he was also a victim of Northern Ireland's divisions. Unemployed because he was Catholic, forced to move to England, forgotten. And this story should teach lessons even today. Religion, race, background, these things shouldn't stand in the way of courage. A man scraped barnacles for 4 hours under a Japanese ship. His religion doesn't matter at all. His courage matters. But Belfast in 1946 didn't understand that. Let me get into technical details a bit. Because scraping barnacles sounds simple, but it's not. Imagine this, 12 meters underwater, darkness. In your hand, a small metal scraper, the ship's hull in front of you. The barnacles aren't just surface level. They're a thick layer, some places centimeters thick. To scrape, you need to apply pressure, but applying pressure underwater is difficult because there's no support point. You're floating, you're drifting. You need to hold on to the ship with one hand, scrape with the other. Exhausting. Arm muscles burning. Then the clean surface is small, maybe 30 centimeters diameter. The limpet mine will sit there. The mine is roughly 20 centimeters diameter. It needs to fit. The magnet needs to hold well. Whilst placing the mine, you need to be careful because it's on a timer. Don't bump it. Don't drop it. You need to do 6 of these, 6 separate areas, 6 times scraping, 6 times placing. And whilst you're doing all of this, oxygen is running out. Calculated time was 2 hours, but actual time was 4 hours because the barnacles weren't in the calculations. On Operation Struggle, Magennis wasn't the only diver. On XE-1, there was another diver. Their target was a different ship. That diver's job went more easily because his ship was cleaner. No barnacle problem, but still difficult, still dangerous, still alone, still risk of drowning. Throughout history, military divers have done incredible missions. Navy SEALs, SBS, frogmen, all doing operations underwater. But what Magennis did is special because 1945 technology was so primitive. Today's diving equipment is highly advanced, rebreathers, long oxygen communication devices. But what Magennis had in 1945 was a simple oxygen tank, simple mask, simple gloves, no communication with the submarine, can't knock, can't say help, completely on his own. And he lasted 4 hours. Let me ask you something now. You're scraping barnacles for 4 hours under a ship. Your hands are cramping. Oxygen is running out. Darkness. Alone. Japanese soldiers above. What happens if you stop? What happens if you abandon the job? What happens if you go back? Nobody will know. Nobody will blame you. The barnacles were too thick. I couldn't do it. You'd say. They'd understand. But Magennis didn't stop. Why? Because the mission had to be completed. Because Takao had to be sunk. Because his mates in XE3 were counting on him. Because Britain was counting on him. And because that was his character. This isn't just courage. This is endurance. This is character. This is who you are, what you live for, what you believe in. Magennis, under that ship at 5'6", the lad from Belfast's narrow streets, said to himself, "I'm going to do this." And he did it. 4 hours, scraped barnacles, placed the mines, didn't drown. Did he die? Not that night. But 40 years later, he died in poverty. Is that justice? No, it's not. James Magennis lived 66 years, spent 4 hours under a Japanese ship, scraped barnacles, placed mines, won the Victoria Cross, couldn't find work in Belfast because he was Catholic, moved to England, was forgotten, died in poverty, and was remembered 20 years later. This story should make you uncomfortable. Because this isn't just James Magennis's story. This is the story of forgotten heroes, the story of people pushed aside because of religion, race, background. Courage should be rewarded not with medals alone, but with respect, with work, with dignity. But Magennis didn't see that. The man who scraped barnacles for 4 hours under a ship struggled the rest of his life to pay rent. If this story has moved you, give it a like, subscribe, leave a comment, and tell me, could you have stayed under that ship for 4 hours? Could you have scraped those barnacles? I don't know if I could, but Magennis did. And we should remember him.